I'd like to introduce the contrastive analysis of the French language, which is presented by Desiree Brown, Alexandra Fish, Anika Fisher, as well as Leanne Solas. The first slide that I'd like to present consists of the French national anthem, and one of the reasons why we include it within our presentation is because it not only consists of the French national anthem language, but it also has English subtitles. And we found this to be important because it's a nice way to be able to quickly take a look at how the French and English language are alike and how they're also different. Within this presentation, we'll include the background information, which will include the following key aspects: the origin and history of French, the writing system, regional varieties, as well as other additional facts. The origin and history of the French language has many important key factors to understand. The first is French is a Romance language, which means it descended from the Vulgar Latin of the Roman Empire, as did all Romance languages. It evolved out of the Gallo-Romance dialects spoken in northern France. The language's early forms include Old French and Middle French. The history of the French language is divided into 6 main parts, and they consist of the following: the Gallo-Romance, which took place during the 5th to the 8th centuries, the Old French during the 9th and 13th centuries, Middle French during the 14th and 15th centuries, the Early Modern French during the 16th century, Classical Modern French during the 17th to 18th century, and lastly, the Contemporary Modern French since the 19th century. The Gallo-Romance consisted of the Vulgar Latin and Gaul, and it had developed specific features that made it distinct from the Latin spoken in other regions of the Roman Empire. And the following consists of a flowchart that I found to be helpful during my research. The Old French took place during the 9th to the 13th centuries, and the dialects consisted of Northern Gaul developed into separate language with a grammar of its own. And the first written materials in it date from the Strasbourg Oaths of 842. And French in this period was already taught in the neighboring countries, especially in Germany. The Middle French during the 14th to 15th centuries. And during this period, it was marked by changes brought in the pronunciation and in the grammar. And it was also known as a common literary language, and it was based on several of the dialects of the specific region of Paris, which was promoted by the writers. French was replacing Latin in the texts of the public administration in France. The early modern French, which took place during the 16th century, it had the aim of many of the writers of this period, as in the case of certain poets such as La Pléiade, was to elevate the French language to the level of Latin as a medium for literary expression. In 1539, a royal decree proclaimed French the official language of the public administration. And since that period, the government was always involved in the development as well as the standardization of the language. During the classical modern French period, it was considered to be was fixed the main grammar convention of the modern French, and by then it was used as an international language throughout Europe and even in the administrative correspondence of countries as Germany. With the colonial expansion of France, French spread to America, consisting of Canada, Louisiana, as well as the Caribbean islands. The contemporary modern French, which took place since the 19th century, it consisted of the contemporary pronunciation of the standard language that was fixed in that period, namely between 1789 and 1918. And French was established as an official language in the French and Belgian colonial possessions in Africa. Moving on to the writing system, the French written language at first appeared in writing in 842 AD, And prior to this time period, Latin was the language used for literature throughout Europe. During the 10th and 11th centuries, French appeared in a number of documents as well as religious writings. However, the French literature didn't start to take off until the late 12th and early 13th century. When thinking of the French writing system, the French uses the exact same alphabet letters as the English language, which is derived from Latin, consisting of 26 letters. The main difference between the two languages is the use of accents as well as the character referred to as a cedilla. Accents are markers that simply appear on the top of letters to relay additional information. Some additional important information in regards to the writing system is the information depends on the type of accent that is used. There are a total of 5 accents, 4 of which appear over vowels and 1 for the letter C. Not all accents can be used with all vowels, so only certain accents will appear over certain letters. It is important to note that the accented markers indicate how one pronounces each word. The following is a helpful link which introduces the French language, and I've also provided that with the below link. I've also included the French alphabet, and the following diagram is an example of the French alphabet in its written form. This next slide introduces the pronunciation of the French alphabet, and I also included a helpful link that I found to be helpful during my research of the French language. In regards to the French orthography, it is based on the medieval pronunciation with strong etymological bias toward the Latin parental forms. And due to this reason, the spelling is abundant of mute letters. This system, however, allows for distinction between 2 different grammatical forms, and the chart below shows that. In terms of the French grammar, when writing French, sentences also begin with a capital letter, like English. The following is an example of the use of a capital letter at the beginning of sentences. Unlike in English, the pronoun I is not capitalized in French. Days of the week, months of the year, as well as languages do not begin with a capital letter. And again, there is a chart of the months of the year, which is an example of this. When taking a look at the grammar, and specifically nouns, the French divides nouns into 2 classes using gender, masculine and feminine. And so why is this important in learning the French language? Well, learning gender nouns is essential for forming sentences in French. So for example, if you want to use the word bread, it would be important to know that the word is a masculine noun, and you would need to use the article les or un, such as shown in this screenshot. In regards to grammar nouns, when writing feminine nouns, you will use either the article la or une, and the following is an example of nouns. When thinking of verb classes in French, the French verbs can be separated into 3 classes, and the 3 classes can be tiered in the following way. The first, verbs ending in er, the second, verbs ending in ir, and the third, verbs ending in re, oyr, as well as ir. Each class of verbs will be conjugated differently when written in sentence form, and the following chart is representative of those forms. I've also contained a French grammar flowchart, which I consider to be very helpful to kind of display the variations of these verb forms. When thinking of the writing system in French is the same as the word order in English. So if you think of it, the subject plus the verb plus the object equals a sentence. And I've also included a sentence below which translates to the boy eats a cake. When thinking of regional varieties, there are actually as many as 28 different accents or dialects for the many different regions of France. It is difficult for someone who is not a native French speaker to hear all of the differences in how words are pronounced and how the language is used, but they are there. It is not just the pronunciation, because many different words or expressions get used in the different regions. The other interesting facts about the French language are as a result of the French and Belgian colonialism from the 16th century, French was introduced to new territories in the